Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi and welcome to Midweek Magic, where I want you to grow your collection by winning 2 free Rare or Better ICRs each and every week. This week's Midweek Magic is a somewhat unexpected historic pauper repeat. We just had it 2-3 weeks back, but we're always happy to see pauper, or at least I am. This week we've got no less than 5 different decks to share with you. One is somewhat of an investment piece. Another helps you accomplish one of the achievements here on the arena. And then of course we have 3 very accessible budget-friendly decks. But before we get into all of that, this whole Midweek Magic thing has become a bit of a tradition here at the Stronghold, and it all started with our crack team of researchers discovering that we were the only YouTube channel making consistent, proactive, and timely Midweek Magic coverage. And here we are years later, and it appears that we're still the only ones out there doing it for the budget community. So be sure to subscribe to the Planeswalker Stronghold so that we can be here for you every chance we get. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, all right. So let's talk about some specific commons from Final Fantasy that might impact pauper. First off, instant ramen. That's it. That's pretty much all I got to say. This is part of Magic the Gathering now. Okay, in all seriousness, a lot of people are drawing parallels with Instant Ramen to Limbus. Both are 2 mana artifact foods. Both of them came from universes beyond. Both of them can be sacrificed to gain 3 life, as food often are. Instant Ramen draws you a card on ETB, while Limbus only scries 1 and then draw a card. So strictly better so far. What I think makes Limbus far head and shoulders above Instant Ramen, and as such have more impact on the pauper format, is the final clause. When it is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you shuffle it into your library. So it's the card that just keeps on giving. I'm not sure Instant Ramen is going to have the impact above the mean level that some people seem to think it will. All right, next up we've got White Auracite, a 4 mana artifact, and it's in white. So the parallels to different artifact affinity decks in pauper probably are not withholding here. When this artifact enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until it leaves play. So it's a 4 mana O-ring, and it's also a mana rock for white mana. And I think that's significant even if it doesn't fit into affinity. Of course, Final Fantasies has a blue-white artifacts matter deck. So we might see affinity, particularly in historic pauper, maybe go in some different directions, although the artifact lands might have to catch up on that. As we start to talk about our next card, please allow me to remind you that I never played Final Fantasy, so if I mispronounce things, please forgive me. But the Q-Trube Forayer, a 3 mana 3/2 with a relevant creature type of zombie, I think is being really undersold and underevaluated by the community. When it ETBs, you can choose 1, destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn, or exile up to 2 cards from a single graveyard. Now, this card is probably not destined to make big waves in 60 card constructed, but these are pretty powerful effects for the pauper environment. And the fact that they come on a relevant creature type with a pretty well-costed body, I think it's worth a second look in pauper. And my runner-up for the best common in Final Fantasy for historic pauper is Sabo Tender, a 2 mana 2/1 plant with reach, and more importantly, landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. Of course, in historic pauper, you're only going to have the 1 opponent, but this could do a lot more work in something like 4-player Commander. But at any rate, focusing in on historic pauper, Landfall was already a deck in this kind of corner case format, and this card definitely needs to be in it. We'll be revisiting that deck during this video today, and quite possibly playing it in one of the playthroughs for Midweek Magic. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it. I think this is the best common in the set, particularly for Historic Pauper. The 4-mana Call of the Mountain Chocobo. Excuse me, Call the Mountain Chocobo. There's no of there. This sorcery allows you to search your library for a mountain card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then the obligatory shuffle. Now that alone is usually a 3-mana effect in green. So the fact that we're getting it in red for a total of 4 mana is pretty fairly costed to start with. But in addition to that, you get a creature token, a 2/2 green bird. And it has, whenever a land you control enters, this token gets +1/+0 until end of turn. This is basically the bird creature tokens for the entire set, but we're getting it here on a common almost for free. And as if that wasn't enough, we can also recast this from the graveyard for the flashback cost of 5 and a red. So not only are we kind of getting a 2-for-1 to start with, if we can cast it again for our flashback, we kind of get a 4-for-1 out of this. And let's not forget all of those landfall triggers that are created by putting that mountain in our hand rather than directly into play. It may delay us a turn in playing that, but we're going to hit our land drop the following turn, guaranteed. If this card wasn't a bird, it would be a beast. But hey, before we get into the specifics of the deck, I wanted to talk about the urgency of the format for just a quick minute. Really, we only see Historic Pauper 3-4 times a year on average. And once you have invested in a deck and you found one that you enjoy playing, there's really not a lot of urgency to continue investing in new decks, unless, of course, you're that kind of player that wants to do something different every time. So if you do have a deck that you enjoy, if you have a deck you've already invested in, occasional upgrades, keeping it current, that's really all you need to do. So if you haven't found a deck that you enjoy, or you are looking for something different, new, etc., we've got some different decks for you to discuss. All right, so first things first, I'm recording this clip prior to Final Fantasy being released on Arena, obviously, since you're watching this on release day. So there are 3 cards from Final Fantasy that are planned to be in this deck but can't be on screen. But I have added them along the bottom. We're planning on adding 4 of each. Sabotender and Call of the Mountain Chocobo. We've just finished talking about those with the Final Fantasy Pauper set review. In addition, we're also running 4 Gisahi Greens. So you can see those cards. I, at the moment, can't. But we will go through the other cards here in the build. We've got the Hellhound, a 1-mana 0/1. It's +2/+2 as a landfall trigger. This is just an aggro beast starting on turn 2. We've got Bushwhack not only as a way to fix mana, but also as a fight spell. We've got one of my favorite cards, definitely my favorite common from Dragonstorm, is the Sagu Wilding. And I've got this in as a 1-drop because more often than not, I'm going to cast this first as a 1-drop. And then once I've ramped up to 5, we'll drop this in, both as a life gain piece and as a flyer attacker in its own right, or a blocker for bigger flyers if need be. In the 2-drop slot, we've got a single Beanstalk Worm. It's a 5-mana 5/4 with reach, again, so we can deal with flyers and the number of pixies and things like that that run around in the various Pauper builds, but also its adventure, sorcery speed 2 mana. You may play an additional land this turn. It's not really a surprise factor or combat trick, but this allows us to start ramping pretty early and maybe get a second trigger our Hellhound is probably going to go unblocked on 2. Hitting for 4 there is just really devastating. Beyond that, we've got 4 copies of Heaped Harvest. This lets us search the library for a basic land card and put it directly onto the battlefield when it ETBs. And when we sacrifice it, we also gain 3 life when we sacrifice it. We've got a double modal face card. Kalani Territory can be a green mana source when we need it, or when we just want to play it as a land. It also gives us another 3 mana fight spell. At the 4 drops, we've got a single Rumbling Rockslide to deal with those really big creatures that we just can't otherwise deal with. Spitfire Legak is our other 4 drop. A 3/4 clogs up the board pretty nicely in Pauper. Plus its landfall trigger pings down our opponent turn after turn, sometimes a couple of times a turn. We've got Dance of the Tumbleweeds, which can allow us to fetch a land for a total of 3 mana, or for 5 mana create an XX green elemental creature token, where X is the number of lands we control, or for a whopping 6 mana, which won't be unheard of, we can do both. We can go get a land and then make an even bigger token after triggering all of our landfall stuff. We're only running 2 copies of this because it can be very mana intensive, although its flexible modes can sometimes come into play much earlier. Elsehorn Giant is from the starter collection. We're running just a single copy. Again, a reach factor, which can be very necessary, and it creates a bunch of 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens off of a landfall trigger, so chump blockers can be nice. Of course, in a landfall deck, very important is the mana base. We've got 19 basics in here, leaning ever so slightly towards green, because you can see most of our early turns are coming down on green things, although we do very much want an untapped red source in our opening hand if we also have a Hellhound. We're also running 2 copies of the Red-Green Desert. We can fetch those up off the Tumbleweeds, get in an extra point, and of course it's fixing for the late or mid game. And of course we're running 4 copies of Evolving Wilds. All together ways to fetch lands in some sort. We've got 4 Evolving Wilds, 2 Bushwhacks makes 6, 3 Sagu Wildlings makes 9. We've got the Heaped Harvest, which can actually do 8 for a total of 17. And then we've got the 2 Dance of Many's, which can fetch as many as 20 basic lands if need be. We're running a total of 19 because, what are the odds we're going to use them all? But all in all, it's a pretty interesting looking deck. I'm looking forward to running it. And of course, don't forget, if you don't have these cards just yet, it's day 1 of the format. I wouldn't necessarily crack packs to build this deck, but it's certainly something to keep in mind for later in the season, next season, etc., because I do think you'll end up with all of those commons down there very easily. So if this isn't a deck that you were looking to build, let's talk about a few others.
The complete victory achievement is within our grasp by killing our opponent with poison.
Alright, so the focus deck for the week is Poison Pauper. And, well, for 2 reasons. One, we just talked about, we are looking to do a particular achievement with this. 1, kill an opponent using poison counters, and that's what this deck does. It basically just focuses on getting that first poison counter in, generally with things like the prologue for Phyresis on turn 2, and then you have a number of cards that proliferate. You have some that are both toxic, meaning they deliver poison counters on damage and also proliferate. We've got things like removal in the form of Vraska's Fall, Whispers of Dross. Infectious Inquiry allows us to draw cards and lose life, plus our opponent gets a poison counter.
It's really just about getting that first one on there. We've got a single copy of Mesmerizing Dose in case they land a creature that we can't deal with otherwise. We basically lock it down and we proliferate. The vast majority of these cards are standard legal and will continue to be so until roughly the end of July of 2025. The one card that is the exception, we are running 2 copies of Contentious Plan, 2-mana sorcery that proliferates and draws us a card. I am basically running that because I can't run 6 copies of Prologue to Pheresis. I'd much rather cast that card, but this makes a nice backup. And there just isn't quite enough good commons in Dimir that fit this poison. We got to pick up something. So consider this your 2 wildcard investments. Otherwise, if you aren't concerned about doing this particular achievement with a pauper deck, you could certainly forego the Contentious Plan and just backfill with some popular uncommons that fit the same theme. Such a deck has been viable in Standard for quite some time and will continue to be so. It was also the #1 deck in Alchemy for, over a year, which is an impressive pedigree in and of itself.
All right, now we get into 3 very accessible decks, and we're going to start with what is actually the most accessible. That's the Big Dumb Green archetype, this time just slanted towards the commons for Pauper. The basic deck theory here is your deck should remain about 1/3 lands, 1/3 Big Dumb Green creatures to beat down your opponent with, and about 1/3 of interaction. And while the deck that I have provided uses cards exclusively from your starter collection, it's very easy to upgrade this as you open packs and your collection grows. Basically, you just want to stick to that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 rule of thumb there, and your deck will end up being just fine. And our last 2 very accessible budget builds for Pauper are both based on very similar cards, which you can have any number of in your deck. Of course, the classic on this was Rat Colony. The fact that it's not standard legal, of course, doesn't really matter to historic Pauper. But, of course, Heir Apparent is standard legal for the foreseeable future, so that might be a little more budget friendly for those looking to do other things with the card in other formats. Both are really great archetypes, but in case someone was tired of playing Heir Apparent, or maybe they're tired of seeing it and don't want to be, quote-unquote, part of the problem, I thought it was a good time to discuss Rat Colony, and of course we will be doing a playthrough on that deck as well. So certainly consider building these. Both the versions that I have are built, other than these 4 common wildcards that you would need, everything else in the deck is from your starter collection, but again, very easily upgraded as your collection grows. So there it is, guys. That's my thoughts this week on the big format with little cards. 5 decks. Hopefully that gives everyone some direction to go in this week. But more importantly, I want to know what direction you do end up taking. Let me know what deck you enjoy playing, and if you've got a unique deck list, by all means share it down in the comments and maybe we'll feature it in a future event. And hey, just in case you didn't catch all that, Matt would like you to know that the deck list that we discussed in this video is going to have a link down in the doobly-doo to take you over to Aetherhub, along with a link to any other alternative list that you might wish to consider. He only asks that you give it a little thumbs up when you're over there checking out the deck list. And I plan on live playing this event on Wednesday at 11 a.m. over on my Twitch channel, so definitely stop in and check it out. Because the Stronghold is so much more than just a YouTube channel, and you can find links to all of our other social media outlets in our profile. because at the end of the day, we're all budget players. And as a community, we're stronger together. So like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all those things to show a little love. It's appreciated more than you know.